Hello all, and welcome back to Time to Dice Character Creation, where we make your favorite fictional characters in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Today, we're going to create the Pumpkin King of Halloween Town, Jack Skellington. Jack is the most terrifying creature in a town full of monsters whose life goal is to be terrifying. Which is a little strange. If you ask me, Jack is probably the most mundane creature within Halloween Town, but what do I know? So beware of spoilers, and without further ado, let's get started. So what do we need to make this terrible terror? Well, first off, we need to be nimble and quick, with all the dexterity that Jack has in the movie. Next, we need to be absolutely terrifying, like literally it's the only qualification of our job. And finally, we need the leadership skills of any governmental leader. Okay, maybe a bit more than your typical governmental leader. For our ancestry, we have a first for the channel, the skeleton ancestry. It starts out a little fragile, but it's nothing we can't fix with a boost to dexterity, charisma, and constitution. Those 3 attribute boosts do mean we need to take a penalty to our intelligence, however. We also get the basic benefits of being undead, which means low light vision, healing from void damage, immunity to death effects, and finally, a +1 circumstance bonus to effects from poison and disease. For our heritage, we're going to pick up the fodder skeleton, boosting our speed by 5 feet, and getting us 1 step closer to the mobility of Jack, even before level 1. For our background, Jack Skellington unlives for the attention of others, whether it be the fear of all the Denzians of Halloween Town, or the admiration of all the good boys and girls on Christmas morning. We're going to go with the entertainer background. This background gives us a plus both dexterity and charisma, and training in performance and theater lore. And finally, the background gives us the fascinating performance skill feat, letting us fascinate one creature with a performance check against their will DC. And as we increase our performance proficiency, we can fascinate more and more creatures. Alright, let's talk classes. We need a class that can be extremely nimble, dancing around the battlefield gracefully while dealing fatal blows before dashing out of range. The first class that comes to mind is Rogue, but all those skill increases feel a little bit much for the main character of a movie about staying in your lane. So we're going to go Swashbuckler, making this our first skeleton build and our first Swashbuckler build for the channel. Swashbucklers get 10 HP per level, and expert proficiency in perception, reflex, and will saves. For our skills, we're going to get training in acrobatics, as well as 4 plus our intelligence modifier skills of our choice. We also get training in simple and martial weapons, as well as up to light armor. In short, we're basically a rogue that in exchange for a couple of skills, gets a little bit more durability. Moving on to our attributes, nothing too special here, just pour everything we have in the dexterity and charisma, so that we can hide from our targets before jumping out and yelling boo. Strength will start at +0. Jack is a skeleton. He literally has no muscles to be found. Dexterity is a +4. Giving us an effective boo is meaningless if you can't hide first. Honestly, I'd probably make charisma our best stat if I could, but dex is our key attribute, and no non-magical class gives charisma as a key attribute except for the thaumaturge. And could you imagine if I made Jack a bard? I mean, come on, he doesn't even use magic. Constitution is at a +2. Jack doesn't get into many fights, but he survived being blasted out of the air by a missile, so he's got that going for him. Int is at a -1. Somehow, the thought never crossed his mind that beings who were dedicated their entire selves to being the most terrifying to children as possible might not be the best for spreading Christmas joy. Wisdom is at a +1 for no particular reason, it's just good to have. And finally, we have charisma. This is important for scaring and leading, and that's 2 of our class goals right there. For our skills, we're going to wind up being legendary in acrobatics and intimidation, for obvious reasons, but we also get master in stealth and thievery, for your typical Halloween hijinks, and performance, in case we want to break out into yet another soliloquy. And finally, we pick up training in society and theater lore. Society, because we seem to know everyone in Halloween Town by a first name basis, and theater lore because, well, it comes from our background. Now, to kick off the build proper at level 1. First things first, swashbucklers are all about panache. We want panache at all times. It lets us do cool things, like get a +1 to any action with the bravado trait, get a +5 foot bonus to speed, and deliver finishers, like Confident Finisher, which lets us make a strike and add half of our precise strike damage on a failure. Oh no, I forgot to talk about Precise Strike. All swashbucklers also get Precise Strike at level 1, which adds 2 precision damage to any strike we make with an agile or finesse weapon, and that damage is increased to 2d6 whenever we make a finisher. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, panache. We get panache whenever we don't fail a check with the bravado trait. How long the panache lasts depends on whether or not we succeeded in the action. If we failed the action, panache lasts until the end of our next turn, but if we succeed or critically succeed, it lasts forever. But regardless, Panache immediately ends whenever you use a finisher. But what actions get the bravado trait, I hear you asking? Well, give me a minute, I'm getting to it. All swashbucklers add the bravado trait to any tumble through action they make, but we also get another action that gets the trait thanks to our swashbuckler's style. The braggart style gives any attempt we make to frighten an opponent the bravado trait. Got all that? Good, moving on. We also get both an ancestry feat and a class feat. The Play Dead ancestry feat lets us capitalize on our skeletal body, letting us lay prone on the floor and pretend to be a corpse. This ruse is successful until a creature takes an action to seek or recall knowledge with us against our deception DC. Without training in deception, that's going to be pretty harsh, but I'd argue that most sane people don't see an unexpected corpse on the ground and stick around long enough to examine it. And finally, we get the flashy dodge feat, letting us nimbly dodge out of the way of an incoming attack, gaining a +2 bonus to our AC. We even get panache until the end of our next turn if the attack misses. The one fight we actually see Jack in the movie is all about dodging attacks until Oogie Boogie falls into his own traps, so this seems fitting. At level 2, we get the Antagonize class feat, meaning whenever we demoralize a foe, not only do we get panache, but their frightened condition can't fall below 1 until after they take a hostile action targeting us, or fail to sense us for at least a round. Meaning if we can successfully play keep away with a melee fighter, we can potentially keep them frightened indefinitely. We also get the Intimidating Glare skill feat, removing the auditory portion of our demoralize attempts. Which sense, skeletons are plenty creepy on their own, even before they start singing about how they can take off their head. Level 3 gives us a few boosts. Fortitude Expertise increases our will saves to master, and Vivacious Speed increases the speed boost from panache to 10 feet, as well as increasing it even further as we level up. And whenever we're not benefiting from panache, we still get half the boost rounded down. Opportune Riposte grants us a brand new reaction with the bravado trait, letting us take a free strike or a disarm attempt whenever a foe critically fails to strike against us. We also get 2 skill feats at this level. Slippery Prey lets us use our lanky body to more easily escape from difficult situations, while Terrifying Resistance gives us a +1 circumstance bonus to any saving throw from a target that is frightened by us. And if you're playing your cards right, that should basically be all of them. At level 4, we get the class feat Plummeting Roll, letting us avoid fall damage and use our reaction to convert the momentum from said fall into free movement up to half our speed. Useful for when your sleigh gets blasted out of the air. We also get access to Tumbling Teamwork, meaning whenever we tumble through an opponent's space, not only do we gain panache, but we also divert enough attention away from an ally that they can step as a reaction. Jack is all about teamwork. You know, when he's not obsessing over the meaning of Christmas and trying to get all of his friends to abandon their very way of life. At level 5, we get Expert in all simple and martial weapons with Martial Weapon Expertise, and the Well-Armed Ancestry feat, letting us detach or reattach our arm with an action. While detached, we get an extra 5 feet of reach, and any foe we hit with said reach is off guard from our first strike. From what I recall of the movie, we never really see Jack take his arm off, but he can remove his head, so I see no reason why his arm should be any more important. The Vexing Tumble feat at level 6 lets us move without provoking reactive strikes on a successful acrobatics check against an opponent's reflex DC. And if we're fortunate enough to critically succeed on said acrobatics check, the enemy becomes off guard until the end of our turn. This is great for turning what otherwise would be just simple movement into an action with a bravado trait and a way to get enemies off guard. All for taking an action that realistically we were going to need to take anyways. This level also gives us access to Lasting Coercion skill feat, letting us boss around the people of Halloween Town for a much longer time before they decide to unionize. At level 7, we get Nimble Crawl, giving us a little bit of extra mobility when we do that weird little spider crawl thing, and Untrained Improvisation, making us truly a jack of all trades. See what I did there? This feat lets us add our level to any skill check that we are untrained in. We also get a damage boost with Weapon Specialization, and Confident Evasion, boosting our reflex saves to master, as well as increasing any successful reflex save we make to critical successes. At level 8, we upgrade Flashy Dodge into Flashy Roll, which now lets us benefit even when damage is coming from a reflex save rather than an attack against our AC. And if we succeed, we can make a free 10-foot movement. Constant motion may be difficult for stop motion, but it's really good for making Jack Skellington. But if that's not enough for you, nothing beats the sheer enjoyment of sending your enemies running for cover with Terrified Retreat. This skill feat lets us give any lower level enemies the fleeing condition whenever we critically succeed with a demoralize check. We reap even more benefits from our undead nature at level 9 with the Undead Resistance Ancestry feat, for resistance from cold, electricity, fire, piercing, or slashing damage. It's not a lot of resistance, only 2 and scaling up to 3, but hey, every little bit helps. We also get Exemplary Finisher, letting our finishers prepare a foe to be scared by us all over again, letting us set up for a constant combo of Demoralize, Finisher, Demoralize. And Swashbuckler's Expertise not only increases our class DC, but increases the boost we get from having Panache from +1 to +2. Level 10 gives us the class feat Daring Do, which means whenever we already have Panache, any action that would have given us Panache lets us roll twice and take the better result. A feat that would make us better at what we were already going to do anyways? Sign me up. This level also gives us the Kip Up skill feat, meaning when we get tired of doing the spider crawl thing, we can get back up as a free action that doesn't provoke reactions. At level 12, we get Toughness, giving us additional hit points and letting us live a couple of extra hits. Well, not live, but you know what I mean. Perception Mastery upgrades our Fortitude saves to Legendary, and the Continuous Flare feature lets us benefit from the benefits of Panache even while outside of combat. Also, we get the Cheat Death class feat, letting us survive a deadly hit with 1 hit point by increasing our wounded value. I don't know what Jack had to do to become a skeleton rather than an actual honest-to-goodness dead guy, but this feat will let us do it again. And the Battle Cry skill feat lets us get Panache as soon as initiative is rolled with a free action Demoralize attempt as soon as we can begin combat. At level 13, we become immune to critical hits. Well, not really, but the Collapse Ancestry feat lets us convert any critical hit we take into a normal hit by using our reaction to completely fall apart. You do have to take an action to put yourself back together before you can act, but Kip Up should help with that. We also get Weapon Mastery, which turns our armor proficiency to Trained, and Light Armor Expertise, boosting our will saves to Expert. And finally, Assured Evasion, boosts our reflex saves to Legendary, as well as increasing our critical failures to regular failures, and taking half damage from regular rolled failures. So by now, you've got the skills to leap around the battlefield, scaring people to your heart's content. But what do you do when Halloween is over and you have to go home and think about how empty and alone you are? Well, level 14 has a cure for that, with the Undead Master dedication, letting us get a small ghost pup to help keep us company. This is so good it almost makes the Swift Sneak skill feat, which lets us move at full speed while sneaking, seem a little lame by comparison, doesn't it? Well, don't worry, because level 15 shows us how cool skill feats can be with the Scare to Death skill feat, allowing us to scare foes so hard their heart, or equivalent sustaining life thing, stops in its tracks. And Tumbling Theft lets us combine the tumble through action with an action to steal. We also get greater weapon specialization, boosting our damage once again, and the Keen Flare feature, which boosts our attacks that roll a 19 on the die to a critical hit, as if we rolled a 20. Seems to me like we're learning a few tricks from Oogie with that dice magic. At level 16, we can pick up Mature Beastmaster's Companion, increasing Zero's combat effectiveness, as well as allowing him to move on his own if we don't use an action to command him. And Rolling Landing, which is basically an upgrade to our plummeting roll, letting us remove our full movement speed, as well as not provoking reactions whenever we take a fall. The Undead Empathy Ancestry feat lets us communicate with undead with a diplomacy roll. We do that on the daily, so that's helpful. And Reinforced Ego increases our will saves to Master, as well as turning all successes to critical successes. This is the part of the movie where Jack gets his groove back, if you couldn't tell. At level 18, we get 2 pretty boring feats. Incredible Beastmaster's Companion upgrades Zero's proficiency again, and Quick Coercion lets us intimidate a foe with a single round of non-combat talking. At level 19, we get the Fleet General feat, letting us boost our movement speed by 5 feet. I don't know why it took us this long to get this, but we got it now. And Light Armor Mastery, which upgrades our Athletics proficiency to Expert. We also get the Eternal Confidence feature, which increases our class DC to Master, as well as giving our Opportune Riposte the effects of the Confident Finisher. And finally, at level 20, we get Inexhaustible Countermeasures, to give ourselves an extra reaction each round that we can use to make an Opportune Riposte. Alright, now that the build is alive, let's take a look at the monster we've created. First off, we have an extremely high mobility skeleton. With a 50-foot movement speed before Panache, we're going to be able to outrun pretty much anything. We also have a pretty reliable way of debuffing enemies with Demoralize, and when combined with Exemplary Finisher, we can just keep doing that over and over again. And finally, we have a pretty decent damage. Precise Strikes and Greater Weapon Specialization increases all of our damage, and it's pretty easy to get into Panache, so we can upgrade that precise damage to D6s rather than just static rolls. For cons, however, we shouldn't be too reliant on that Precise Strikes damage, as it is precision damage, and we know, personally, a lot of creatures that are immune to that. And speaking of immune to one of our main options, we have plenty of ways to demoralize foes, but nothing to help us fight mindless creatures who would otherwise ignore our demoralize attempts. And finally, we have a pretty decent feat investment into Zero. 3 out of our 10 class feats are spent making him as strong as he can be, without any kind of actual chassis support to make him as good as a ranger's companion or even a druid's companion. But that's all we got here today. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are still trying to reach 500 subscribers by the end of the year, and with your help, we are very close to getting there. So thank you so much, and see you next week.